Welcome to the DevReady podcast. Thanks for joining me today, Karl, on an episode of the DevReady podcast.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'll let you introduce yourself so I don't butcher your name.
That's a very common incident. My name is Karl, last name Friesenbichler. The name might give it away. I am Austrian, and it's a German last name. And I'm running Ferag here in Sydney, in my position here as Managing Director CEO for Asia Pacific. So anything that happens between India and China is happening under my guidance at the moment.
It's quite a large area to cover.
Yes, and we are growing.
Yeah, considering, so Ferag, you're running like warehouse management software, for lack of better terms.
Correct, yeah. So one of our main products is warehouse management software, but we actually call it a unified control system because a lot of times in warehouses you have a management software and then underneath you have a control software that is specific to a particular hardware. And we said, screw all of that. Let's have one software. Let's have one source of truth that actually tells you exactly what you need to know, the data that you need to know, and that is agnostic to hardware. So that's one of our products is the software. The other products done are specifically hardware that we do provide. We provide pouch sorters and sorters. So everybody encouraged, if you're interested, look at our website. You'll find all of that there.
So there'll be
a couple of cool videos.
The robotic machinery that can sort products or pull them off shelves and arrange them to pack orders.
Yeah, I think the pouch sorters are just coming up in the last maybe 10 years, and it's really strong now. Just think of a warehouse. A lot of times you would have unutilized space in the rooftop, and we just put a system there that is gravity driven. So you go up electronically, but then it's gravity driven. And we put products in pouches, and whenever we need the product for, let's say, an online order, the pouch will go to a packing station. Mm-hmm. So you start utilizing a lot of the dead space in a warehouse. Okay. And all of it needs really good software, and that's where Sydney comes into play.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of software managing everything, because I think when people think of warehouse systems, they probably think of just like inventory management, not the actual operations of a warehouse, depending on how sophisticated you want to get.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a lot of times when people don't think about warehouses a lot of times. Our industry is sort of hidden. Yep. Everybody is touched by supply chain. Nobody's talking about it, and people don't know what's happening in a warehouse. It's really fun to be in our industry, but it's very hidden.
Yep, it's undercover. Probably the closest thing.
It's totally undercover.
The only time people probably think of either warehouses when someone says Bunnings or Costco.
It literally, I mean, I've been in this industry for 23 years now. Warehousing in itself, to me, has always been a game, right? I always tell people, because I started off with conveyor systems and sortation systems, everything before robotics became a topic. And to me, it was always, remember when you were young and you had those Carrera cars on a track? Mm-hmm. That's what it is. That's literally what the warehouse project is. You're playing with toys. It's just they're not hundreds of dollars anymore, they're millions of dollars, but it's the same thing. You try to be as fast as possible around the track without making mistakes. Yep. And that, in a nutshell, is what warehouse automation is about. It's about being faster, being more efficient. And you can play with state-of-the-art technology, which is really, really fun.
Yeah.
So,
because there's probably a lot of innovation in that space, because it's every dollar counts, and then the more space you can maximize, the faster you can do things and be more efficient, then you're driving up profit and revenue, better returns.
Yeah, there are so many points for it, right? Our region is super fun because it's Southeast Asia, it's India, it's China. So we do not have the saturated, sophisticated markets where you put in a warehouse and with robotics, because A, you can't find people to work there, B, they're too expensive. Mm-hmm. In markets like India, you have projects because humans cannot be fast enough. Also, in my opinion, humans can't be trusted with repetitive tasks. We're really shit at that. It's really bad.
People get bored.
People get bored. You need to keep them engaged with something. And that's where really smart software comes in, right? And that's where one of our main goals is always, how can we make this entertaining for human? How can we make it the iPhone of a warehouse where I don't need training to do something and I'm not bored doing it.
Yeah. So that just using what you said, that sort of reminds me. I'm not sure if you've ever read the book or seen the movie Ender's Game.
No.
Okay, so it's in the future where they're taking kids through like war training, but they're playing a game. But they're not really playing a game. They're controlling robots on the field, actually in war, and they don't realize. That's like making the repetitive entertaining. So almost, I don't know why that came to mind. But so in your space, I'll deviate back from that thought. Is sort of Amazon the leader in the innovation and that side, or is it that just probably the most documented?
It's the most visible, but Amazon is really smart. They use a bare minimum of automation, so they're not going to go highly sophisticated. They go quantity.
Okay.
So they have those Amazon robots that everybody has seen somewhere on YouTube, right, that run around, that have a rack on top and they come to you. Goods to person concept. You can go way more sophisticated. You can have really cool robotics doing this much faster. But if you use the Amazon robots, you will have hundreds and hundreds for a very cheap price. And it's quantity.
Okay.
It's not the speed of fulfillment. For them, it's really quantity. It's, okay, I'm going to put 1,000 more robots, but it's cheap.
Yeah.
So Amazon is actually very standardized, as you would expect. They wouldn't go and implement the latest and greatest simply because they're going to wait it out until it becomes cheaper.
Okay. So,
but if in Australia especially, if you want to go and see, it's like the hidden, as warehouses are, like it's the hidden gems around. You have somebody like Maya in Melbourne with the National Distribution Centre, free state-of-the-art systems in there with robotics, by a supplier called Geek Plus, and all managed by our software. Those are the really innovative warehouses where a large retailer goes in and says, I need to change my national strategy to fulfill online orders. That's the really interesting stuff. It's not the copy-paste, repetitive in every country in the world stuff. It's the highly customized, highly specific for one customer. And I think that's where it's really fun to go in.
yeah, so the Amazon model is the benefit of scale. The more they can order
absolutely,
at once, the same standard scheme and design, cheaper it is, because then you're buying more quantity, larger volume.
Yeah.
So sounds like you get excited about sort of like the problem solving and trying to understand what's the best way to deliver the outcome that they're after.
I'm a builder at heart. If I'm bored, I leave. And being in this industry for 23 years means that you never get bored easily. But it also is mapping that to our product, our software as well, to understand it. I always tell people you can code a standard product for a bank or a particular consumer product, and you will continue improving that particular product, but it becomes quite boring because your mission is always going to be the same. In a warehouse, the mission is never the same. The mission is always slightly different. It's always customized. It's always particular to one customer, particular to a customs situation, to taxes, or to regulations like dangerous goods or pharmaceuticals. So there's always a challenge that you haven't had. There's always something to really get your head thinking on. How can I solve that particular issue for that particular scenario?
Yeah, there's familiarity, but not
not enough to get it bored. Yeah.
Yeah, we get similar when we're designing software for clients. It's every system has a login and a forgot password as a simple thing. And there's certain settings that are consistent in the way things happen, but then there's the uniqueness to that business's workflow or their strategy that they're trying to achieve. And it sounds like it aligns to how you deliver your solutions.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The difference between the different warehouses, the difference between the different customers and countries, and then what do you take and make a baseline for data analytics, for example, which is in its infancy for warehouses. Warehouses at the moment don't really think of how can I improve by sharing information, not internally but externally. What doesn't do harm but actually gives them a massive benefit. And that's one of our work streams where we say, what happened before the bot in our industry? What are new items? How can we use data science? How can we use artificial intelligence? How can we use machine learning to improve the operation of our customers? And those are the really, really interesting topics that are starting 1 or 2 years ago in its infancy and now coming to the market where we say, this is becoming really interesting. This is becoming interesting to customers, because otherwise it's not going to be interesting to anyone. Just because I like it as a nerd doesn't mean.
Of course, yeah, you need to
sense.
understand what you're building and who you're building it for to make sure it's delivering outcomes. Otherwise, you're building something cool just to play with, and you're wasting money.
Correct, yeah.
So in sort of that AI machine learning space, is it more around just the data analytics and understanding where things can be improved? Or are you sort of like a step beyond maybe image recognition and identifying products, because you'll have RFID tags and identifiers?
I'll give you a super easy example that people don't think about. I think machine learning, first of all, artificial intelligence is not like there are categories, right?
Yes.
A lot of times you need to clarify it in the beginning. It's like machine learning is artificial intelligence, image recognition, it's all under the category of artificial intelligence. For us, machine learning is easy. That's data analytics, that's pattern recognition. Okay. Image recognition is something so interesting to our industry, because if you are, let's say you are a fashion retailer like our customer, The Iconic, they get a lot of their products in from China, from India, from Bangladesh. A lot of those cartons might not have a barcode, but they have something written on it.
Mm-hmm.
So with image recognition, at the moment, if you don't utilize modern methods like image recognition, you have a person standing there saying, that's a carton and that's those t-shirts in those sizes with those quantities. Okay, I'll inbound it. That will take you 60 to 90 seconds of work. And with an hourly rate, you can calculate how much money that is.
Yep.
Repeat that 10,000 times a day, 50,000 times a day, 100,000 times a day in cartons received. And that for 1 year, that's your budget.
Yep.
So now if I put a little bit of a conveyor there and I say the person only puts the carton on the conveyor, I have image recognition, and the first thing I do is I put a unique license plate on it, a unique barcode, and with image recognition, I try to figure out what products are in it. And if I can solve 90% of that flow and only 10% fail, I've saved you a massive amount of money. Now I'm talking operational interest.
Yep.
And now if you take that further and say, that learning effect is value in data, because maybe the Iconics warehouse has learned it, but Myers warehouse hasn't. But they're getting the same product.
Mm-hmm.
So I can now say, there's value in, so you have 10% that get rejected and you teach it in manually.
Yep.
That teaching represents value because I've spent time. If I now say, dear customer, I'm selling, you can sell that information to me for 50 cents or for $1. But if you want information, I'll sell it to you for $3.
Yep.
And it's still a third of the price or 10% of the price as if you would manually teach it in. So all of a sudden, the concept of sharing information becomes very interesting to everybody participating.
Yeah, because they can all get the benefit of scale of if
Exactly,
everyone's doing it, and then you're the broker effectively in the middle, adding add-ons to your software that benefits everyone.
And that is our vision, my vision for a warehouse management software, a really good, a surviving one for the next 10, 20, 30 years,
Yep.
is that it becomes nothing else but a data transfer tool to say, how can I provide information that is useful for you in the moment of your operation without you having to invest the time for your people to gather the information.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so powerful. That's the most powerful method in the future. And we are literally designing it, we are working on it. So it's also the job description changes, right?
Yep.
Instead of only having software developers, you give them a challenge and they develop something for you. You now have business analysts, you have data analysts, you have designers to enable this whole environment where you say, all of a sudden I'm not an island anymore.
Yep.
With my information, with my process. I'm participating in this universe of islands, and we share information freely. And that's a huge change in management thinking as well.
Yeah, and then just adding on to that example is you probably could go back to the actual manufacturer. And if you can get some sort of low-cost solution at their end, then you've already got it identified at the source, which then simplifies it for the rest of the chain.
Oh, go further. You could say that particular product that is sent into 1,000 warehouses around the world has quality issues in a particular country.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, you can say that ship that transported, the container that transported that product to the country had an issue.
Yep.
Was tipped. So it actually impacts the carrier,
yes,
the
it
ship.
does. Yeah, the whole
So
chain.
you can so that's where machine learning comes in, where I say, okay, is there a pattern? Do I identify patterns with this information. So all of a sudden, the information that I gather is not only to help your warehouse, in particular when you receive the good, but also I can tell you, be aware that last time this product came in your country, it had a quality issue, and maybe you flag that container arriving in your warehouse for a quality inspection that you might not usually do.
Yeah.
So we can improve your product quality that goes to your stores or to your online customers.
As long as you have the visibility in the data, then you can make those decisions. So something you touched on there is saying making a lasting software or a lasting business. I just realized that, look, your industry is probably one that's been growing exponentially over the last few years that people don't even realize, and will continue to grow larger and larger because everything is driven online.
Our industry has grown for the last 20 years, year on year, about 15 to 40% a year, in that range. And only this year we had a slight hiccup where stagnation is unknown to us. So if it stagnates, everybody is freaking out. And we told them, guys, this is, most economies struggle this year. So it's not that our customers go away.
Yep.
They will wait 1 or 2 years to invest into new systems, new products, new automation, blah, blah. Get ready for the wave to hit you next year.
Yep.
Because, again, if you run a warehouse and your demand stagnates this year, you're not going to invest in new solutions, but your demand will go up next year, and all of a sudden you need a new solution. So our industry is really weird, because even if we have issues for 1 year not to get, we are spoiled, right? If our order books are full and we have still customers running after us, we're like, that's a normal year. and then you have a year where your order book is just full, and you don't have like a queue of customers. You're like, oh, that's a bad year. No, it's not.
It's a normal year.
It's a normal year. So we're waiting for the big wave to hit us, and we're actually building up resources for that.
Yeah, because I imagine you would have had a huge ramp up from COVID, and then it's just been probably tailing down because that was the big shift to online. As if online wasn't enough.
The shift to online was insane for our industry, especially. I think that's where it's really hidden, because when stuff goes online in your warehouse, if you run a warehouse that is store replenishment only or 80% store replen, your mission, how you achieve it, is totally different to online. Because if I run a store and you deliver 1 or 2 truckloads to me a week, and that's be it. Yep. So in your warehouse, you just take cartons and you chuck them in a truck.
Yep.
And that's an hour of your warehouse is to replenish my store. Whereby if I'm a customer and order a pair of socks from you, you can't really send one person to collect a pair of socks, pack it, and put it in a nice cage for, let's say, Australia Post. Because it's so inefficient to do that.
Yep.
So you need to wait for 1,000 orders of pairs of socks to come in, send one person to collect 1,000 pairs of socks, and then they get packed. So all of a sudden, you need to be super smart on how do you wave your orders, how do you group them, how do you optimize the walking path of people in a warehouse, all that stuff, that store replenishment, nobody cares.
No.
Because I have large volumes to go through.
Yep.
All of a sudden, I have tiny volumes, but I have hundreds and thousands of orders. So we have warehouses we're doing a warehouse in Europe where we have fashion and shoes, and we fulfill about 30,000 orders an hour.
Oh, wow.
Online. But that could be 2 store replenishments a day, or it could be 30,000 orders an hour online, right? The volume is the same, but the mission is totally different. I have tiny orders, and I need to pack them separately. You get your thank you note inserted and all that crap that you do with online. Different. It's the mission is totally, and nobody was ready before COVID to change that fast, to fulfill online that fast.
Yeah.
So our industry exploded during COVID.
Because
completely exploded.
Imagine if you're doing the replenishment, you're probably doing like a just-in-time model because you've only got so much storefront space. So this is your stock for the week. What have you done previously? Let's do something similar and just replenish what's missing.
Correct. And you push stock to the stores. You don't really care too much. You can play with that because the stores are usually yours as well.
Yep.
So it's a stock move from A to B. It's not a sale per se. The sale happens in the store. But, and then as a warehouse, I'm relaxed because if I push stock to you in a store and it's not today, then it's tomorrow.
Yep.
But if you order something online, emotionally, it's your property, you paid for it.
Yep.
So you're already upset at me because I haven't delivered it yet.
Yep.
Every keynote that I do, that's what I say. Online means I already have I've broken the promise already by the moment you paid, because you don't have it in your hand immediately.
That's a good way to look at it.
So all I can do is to get this to you as fast as possible, because anything else is unacceptable.
Yeah.
So that it's a totally different mission, right? Mission A is I get it to your store whenever I can, and I might deliver over or under, and you deal with it.
Yep.
And you can't really complain because we're the same company. But if it's online, I can't over or under deliver. It needs to be exact. It needs to be highest quality. You don't want, even the plastic bag needs to be nice, because you want to have a nice experience unwrapping it. In stores, nobody cares.
Yeah, it's a marketing experience, a marketing tool, effectively. How quick and how fast you can do it, how it's packaged, how it's branded.
Absolutely, and everybody's using it. I think the Iconic now does 2 hours deliveries in Sydney.
Yep.
Many orders. This is for our system in their warehouse. This is a nightmare.
I can imagine.
Guess how many minutes we have for the order to be picked and sent to fulfill it in 2 hours.
My guess is going to be you have about 2.5 minutes or something. It's going to be something ridiculous.
No, it's not that much, but it's like we get 17 minutes out of the 2 hours.
Something ridiculous.
No, that 2.5 would be great. Yeah. No, but 17 is still a lot. I mean, depending where the product is, you need to find it.
The warehouses
pack
aren't
it
small
nicely.
either.
No, they're huge. Yeah. So that's and that's exactly that promise. You paid for it already. Therefore, I need to deliver as fast as possible.
Yeah, so
I can't tell you I'm late.
In that example, you've got 17 minutes to pick and pack it. There's an hour and 45 minutes to make sure it's delivered, to find the actual courier provider, whoever that 3PL person is, and make sure it gets delivered. And then they have to fulfill their part of the bargain as well. Yeah.
It's if you take the 2 hours apart in the pieces that are really happening, you start seeing how stressed everybody is with that. But online, it's like $5. Yeah, sure, 2 hours. And like,
So
you're stressing out a lot of people doing that.
Yeah, I can imagine probably AliExpress and Temu and those type of platforms have probably done a big thing on that, because they're very, very low cost items and people are ordering them a lot. So that's probably blown up how things work in those warehouses. I can imagine what they'll be like you coming out of China.
They had to completely change their structure of fulfillment as well, because it's free shipment a lot of times, and you can get an item for $1 delivered.
Yep.
And sometimes it's free delivery. So the only thing that happens there is volume.
Yep.
Massive volume. You won't survive. You can't compete with them because you don't have the volume.
Yeah, it's impossible if it's that cheap.
But also they do operate negatively the first couple of years until they build up the volume, right? Yep. And that's a strategy in the market to say, if I go in and I go in cheap with high volume, I will dominate the market after a couple of years and I get my money then.
Yep, and then they probably don't care about the quality as much at that level, because you think, all right, it's $1 or $2, I'm happy to buy it again.
See, that's the difference, right? If you order from let's say Temu, you order from Temu, do you care about are you upset if the quality is not great when you get it delivered?
You're like, for $2, I'm happy for it to break and buy it again.
Yeah. So you order a bottle of soap from Aesop for $55 or whatever it costs. If that bottle gets delivered to you a day late and it has a slight scratch on it, you massively care.
Yeah.
You might complain about it, right?
Yeah.
So you give Temu a lot of leeway because it's cheap in volume. So it's different missions. We have warehouses with high fashion as well, with very expensive fashion, where there is now an idea of utilizing, for example, image recognition to say, is the white fabric stained or does it have any sort of dust imprint on it? That it needs to get washed before we can send it to the customer. It needs to get restored to its original shape. And also you can't store it in a warehouse in certain areas because they're too dusty.
Yep.
So stuff like that. Where I say in a
lot
of fashion warehouses you don't care,
people never think
sometimes
about
you do.
Those sort of things like that at all. Like just where do you store the item in the warehouse because of the dust?
Where do you store? How do you transport it?
Yep.
On a conveyor system, a lot of times conveyors are always rollers, and rollers create dust. A lot of decisions are I cannot use cardboard on a conveyor because cardboard creates cardboard dust on a conveyor. Okay. Therefore, it's a lot dustier. So you want to use plastic, which is more expensive. Yeah, a lot of those things.
There's some probably you'll be familiar with them, but there's some systems I've seen on like TikTok and YouTube videos where they're like the little round plates and they shift around, and that's how they move the items. Then they've got air jets that can knock them out into different conveyors. So it'd be all systems like that. Just how do you fast can you do things, and then how do you create the most minimal impact in delivering that outcome?
Yeah, that's such a good point in the physicality of it. You can go really fast, but if you brake, there is abrasion, there is a physical impact on the product that you're transporting. A lot of times you can't go that fast. You want to have more of you want to care about the product a lot more. So you might need to put it into a cushioned tote, so that if the product shifts in it is cushioned. Stuff like that as well. All the YouTube videos, all those videos are really fun. When you walk in a warehouse, you wouldn't see those things easily.
No, they'll be covered.
You would see more traditional stuff but also maintenance, right? I want to put something in that is easy to maintain with a minimum effort, no downtime. Our uptime needs to be 99.98%.
Oh, well.
Right? So if somebody comes up with something new that is unproven, they will have an issue finding a real warehouse to show, like to take it up on as a pilot, because you have no idea how reliant that thing really is.
Yeah, so your software has to operate almost at a different level than most people's apps and systems. A lot of systems require the software to be up, otherwise they can't operate. But in your industry, if it's not operating for an hour or 5 minutes even, that can be hundreds of millions of dollars of lost value or revenue or delays, anything.
Not only that, penalties.
Yeah, okay.
The contractual penalties. I mean, think of, I'm not going to say names, any warehouse that you would have 200 to 300 people a shift working in a larger warehouse, sometimes more. If your software is down for 10 minutes, you can calculate
2,000 minutes.
The impact already. And then you have a loss of sales, right? And then, you might not be able to fulfill your orders. And sometimes, if you cannot fulfill an order today, it is cancelled.
Yep, that happens,
It's contractual a lot. In the pharma industry, it happens a lot, where pharmacies, for example, order the same product from 2 different suppliers, and whoever delivers first gets the order.
Oh, okay.
So it's a race. It's a real race. It's nice in warehousing because the real pressure comes on.
Yep.
A lot of that, where uptime and reliability of our software is key.
Yep.
And our software runs completely maintenance free and 24/7. So we are not allowed to have a minute of downtime usually.
Yep.
And that's when modern methods of deploying come in, right? How do you because we're ISO 27001 certified, so data security and cybersecurity is really important to us. How do I update an always up and running system where I have to patch a security update in to the framework that we use, for example? A lot of times it's framework issues, and we use Kubernetes to solve it a lot of times with load balancers. So you run multiple containers of the same application, and then you update container by container. But it's considerations on how do you design this whole thing.
It affects everything. There's a lot of thought that has to go into it. So what has changed from your startup days to when you were acquired late last year to now?
I mean, generally, I would say not much. The mission is still the same. We were so lucky that we found a partner in Ferag to take us on and to make us the product house for software, the specialists for it. We are building up the consultancy around it. So we are actually still on the same mission as the startup DevReady was before, just on a global scale now. So it's not only that we found a partner to team up with, we actually became the in-house team for everything to do with what we had already.
Yep.
So there was no internal competition, and we went global immediately. So the only thing that changed was scale.
Yep.
It was a huge scale up, and I love the history of Ferag itself as this 70-year-old Swiss business, family owned, that is still the biggest player in print media. So anything, you touch a magazine or a newspaper in Australia, it went through our machinery.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
And that is globally.
Yep.
In every country in the world, most likely 90% chance our machinery is touching it. So huge, but in a declining market. And 10, 15 years ago decided to swing over to intralogistics where we come in, and then teamed up with us last year. And I think I like the history of it. I like the mission statements. I like the values. For me, I would have never teamed up without 100% match on values.
Yep, and that's key, that the values, and like, they're almost, as an investor have come in, you have to have the right investor come in and be able to give you the right value and work with them. It's not just, here's the money and do what you want. You want a partner that can help you grow and you work together.
That's what I think that's so important for anybody who runs a startup, who's searching for a partner to grow. My feedback was always, do you need to grow first? And what is your expectation of growth? What does it mean to you as a person? Do you want to exit it? Do you want to stay on? If you want to stay on, you need to make sure that your values are 100% reflected in the wider business. And if they are not, then it's not the right choice. Because you can negotiate a lot, but not your values.
Yeah, you shouldn't deviate from them. That's what drives you and keeps you motivated, gets you up.
Yeah, otherwise you leave after some time, right?
Yep.
You become unhappy, and that's not worth it. If you have a functioning startup, there's nothing wrong with having a small business.
Yeah, if it works and it's operationally profitable, then not everyone has to take over the world.
Exactly. Not everybody needs to be my competitor.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, to be frank, we did have a discussion where we said, do we want to be a global player or do we want to be in Australia? In Australia, we have a 25% market share in the WMS, WCS. So as a startup, that's a couple of years old. That's fantastic.
Yep.
With big brands under our belt. And we had that before we merged. So we had Maya Iconic, we had those before.
Yep.
So we could have easily survived in Australia and grown steadily at a slower pace, of course. And it was literally the values aligned, the mission aligned, what Ferag needed, what we needed was a perfect match in every aspect. Otherwise we wouldn't have teamed up. And we were, just Australia alone, I think we were like 15 people merged together in September, and now we are nearly 60.
Oh well, that's a lot of growth.
So
Yeah, we've got a broader market to serve.
Crazy.
More things that have to happen, more integrations, more clients. It's great to see that that's come through and that the alignment happened, because that's the best case scenario. And like I said, if that doesn't align, then you don't go ahead with it. Otherwise, you'll end up regretting it or resenting it, and that's not what you want to do.
And I think there is power in walking away. There's power. But we walked away from deals before, where various different businesses came up to us and said, "Do you want to be teaming up?" and blah blah blah. And I was like, you know what? Doesn't feel right.
Were they
money is not everything.
Were they not aligned to the values, or was it that you had enough customers that you didn't need those projects to come in?
No, not aligned to values, or maybe the value alignment was lip service and trust your gut on that.
Yep.
A lot of times, just trust your gut. If you are the founder, you have a really good feel on if a party is just interested in you as a product, or if they're interested in the mission and the vision in where you want to go, and allowing you to take it there instead of promising you something and then you become an internal department without any chance of to get your mission done. So we did say no a couple of times, and it's hugely empowering to say no. I only encourage everyone to do that.
If you can be in that position where you can turn down work or deals, that's a great spot to be in. There's a lot of probably startups that it's very difficult to say no in those very first early days, because that starts revenue, or it's. I
think you need to take that further. I had that was one successful startup. I had a failed startup before, so you also need to say no to yourself and accept when something fails, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think in our society we put so much pressure on winning. Like no. If I wouldn't have failed years ago trying to do something similar, I would have not had the experience to make this one a success. So I think there's a massive power in failing, but also accepting that it failed. What I can see a lot is that people hang on to something that is not going well.
Yeah.
Like,
It's that
You know what?
sunken
Wrap
cost.
it up and try again.
It's that sunken cost fallacy. You've put effort in,
Yeah.
then how long do you keep going for? But I think you've got a unique perspective on things, or at least a mentality to then know that, all right, it's time to
Yeah.
cut. This is my vision. I'm sticking to it. This isn't going to achieve it, and then pivot and move
Exactly. The vision is the same, right? You're just choosing a different vehicle. And it might work or it might not work. And you can start up with the best intentions and with great supporters, and it might work or might not work. That's a gamble in every startup that you touch. And I hope that I want people to learn that there's no shame in it. Because a lot of times people maybe don't stop it. They don't shut it down because there's shame in saying, oh, I failed. Like, no, it's fine. You're just changing vehicles. That's all it is.
Yep.
Your mission in your life is still the same. You still have the same core values that drive you. That's not going to change, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if the vehicle 1 that didn't work out, take the lessons learned and jump in vehicle 2 whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I think that's probably a broader culture thing that we have in Australia potentially than anything else. And then people, a lot of the, I'm not going to say a lot, there are people out there that do things for show as well. So whether it's working or not, it doesn't matter. That they have that is what matters.
Whenever people tell me like, oh, I want to do a startup, I want to do this and that, I was like, do you like your private time? Do you like leisure time? Yeah, don't do a startup.
Yeah, everyone thinks, oh, it's good you get to work for yourself, but there's a completely different level of worries and things you have to consider and do day to day.
It's your life. You need to, if you want to be successful, but that's also if you want to be in executive management. It's the same story. You're committing your life to that cause, and you need to be okay with it. It can't feel like work. It needs to feel like a hobby, and it needs to make you happy. If it wouldn't, I'm happy every day doing what I love, and I'm doing this for 20-something years, and I've not stopped loving it. But even my family back in Australia, like, you're a workaholic. It's like, no, I'm not. I just really love what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I would not burn out because I love what I do. But there's a difference to being driven to do something because you think it's the right thing to do.
Yep.
No, do it if you love it. And there's nothing wrong in not being an entrepreneur and doing a great job. If you love what you're doing, you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, if you do something you enjoy, you'll never work a day in your life. And it's true. It doesn't feel like work when you actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I used to work at Coles part-time in the fresh produce section, and that was a job. I didn't enjoy working there, and it was hard every day. But this job that I have with this business is you enjoy what you do, so you don't treat it like that. Just like, all right, I'll sit down and I'll actually do something at night and code because I want to do something because I enjoy doing that. It's fun to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I have to restrain myself from coding so much. It's also my software engineers tell me that, like, they find so many bugs in my code because I coded different. It's like, yeah, it's good, find them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I shouldn't be. But it's super fun to code still.
Yeah, and then it keeps your skills. You understand what's happening, direction. If new technology comes, you still probably need to be aware of what's coming and how those changes affect the business and what does that mean.
And a lot of times when people are super happy in coding, I would recommend that they don't go into team lead or into soft skill jobs like management, because you will lose focus of what you really love. You will have no time for it anymore. And it's, again, don't think of what society thinks is a career path. Like, work it out for yourself, whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, that's something I've never understood in the industry is the best coders get then shifted out of that role and put into something else to manage the coders.
They make them unhappy.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. Well, Karl, it's been a great chat. Thank you for your time today. If anyone wants to reach out and learn more about what you guys do, how can they do that?
You can go to our website, www.ferag.com, Ferag.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. That's one of my only social presences. I'm not a big social media person, but LinkedIn I use quite regularly. So just with my name, you'll find me on LinkedIn. There's a lot of content from our business and from me online as well on that platform.
Awesome.
And yeah, you'll find keynotes and all sorts of stuff. I do like standing on a stage and talking. So
nice. Well, I'm sure people will check it out. We'll put those links in the show notes. And once again, thank you for your time, Karl. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.